Hello, everyone. This is at Talk Live, and I am Umair Qureshi with you today with a wonderful educationist with us, and we have a wonderful educationist as a co-host with us. Tammy, hi, how are you?
Hi, Mayor. How are you today? I'm good. Thank you.
Right. How was your flight from New York back to Singapore? Are you back to Singapore?
Yeah, I got back Friday night, 1 a.m. And yeah, it was a long 24 hours. And I've had the weekend to adjust back to kind of a semi-regularly scheduled program, I guess, as much as I can in a couple of days. But yeah, it's good.
All right. So Tammy, tell us who is with us today.
We have someone obviously very special with us, Basil Marin, who's from Virginia. And he's an administrator right now, worked as a teacher, and often has been working in settings with at-risk students. And so his focus is building relationships with students. So he's going to, hi, Basil, first of all. Thank you for being on the show.
Hi. Thank you both.
It's really nice to have you, especially coming off of, a conference and then plunging back into all the heavy work and stuff when you get back. So really appreciate that you're with us today. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your role and your affiliation with ASCD?
All right. Thank you both. Thank you, Tammy and Omar, for having me here this morning. It's a pleasure. As you both said, we've both been through the March Madness already, and we're all tired. But because of the work that you're doing, I definitely didn't mind rallying this morning and getting up and talking to your audience about the good work that you're doing. So currently, right now, I am an assistant principal for Churchland High School in Portsmouth, Virginia. The work that we're doing, I am in an urban school division, and we're doing some great work with some of our schools in terms of, before I came on board, again, I'm just an administrator, but the Central Office Supervision and Administration Board there, they've really helped our school division of 19 schools almost be fully accredited. And so that's some great work. And that's hiring the right people and building the relationships and understanding what your kids need. So I am in that role right now. But also through ASCD, I am a 2017 Emerging Leader. So I nominated through my mentor, Dr. Adam Brown. And I would say me being a part of ASCD was a life changer in terms of my support group, in terms of people that I have connections to. That's how I met you both. And it just really helps you to identify areas in which you need to grow as an individual, and people that you have ties to can help you do that. And you don't have to be in the same country, as we're all in different places right now. You can have that global LPN. And so that's really what's helped me to grow, I believe, as a leader. I became an emerging leader and an assistant principal at the same time. So that really helped me to really put me on a platform to really grow as both an instructional leader, but as individually as a person. I think those things are great. And now I'm able to go back full circle and give those things to my teachers. I'm able to give them to my students. And I'm able to go around now with my national talk about how to reach an unreachable student and help other educators who are struggling with some of the same things, who are not in the same geographic area that I am in. So that's been powerful for me. So I'm also part of I'm an appointed position called the Position Advocacy Committee for ASCD, and that's an opportunity to share with the board some of the kind of national or international issues we see within education. I think that's powerful as well, because we're able to have a voice. We're able to talk to Department of Education and try to get things turned around for what's best for kids and reaching that whole child.
That's awesome. And I was pretty bummed that I didn't get to your sessions at Empower, but it's on my agenda for whenever I see you next. So I look forward to that. Thanks, Basil. Umair, you've got a question?
Yeah. So Basil, thank you again for joining us. And today's topic is, it's a very important, and it is of a great concern. Now, today we are going to start the show with your expertise and your suggestions and talks about this big issue. So for the viewers, first of all, we start with the topic introduction, that is reaching the unreachable, building relationships with at-risk students, and how the whole child development has a role in this part. So Basil, will you tell us that what made you decide to work with the students who are hard to reach?
Right. So being completely transparent, I was one of those students when I was in school. And so I had teachers who really saw potential in me, even though I was a problem student in the classroom. And a lot of times those me being defiant or me being disrespectful in the classroom came from me having academic deficiencies. Me being in the second grade, I had a reading specialist, I had a literacy coach because I was behind. In second grade, I could not read and write. So a lot of times when we got into, you all know, you get in the circle with the students reading a book out loud, we're saying sight words. I couldn't do them. And a lot of times the teacher will pick on a student. They'll say their name, hey, Basil, what's this word? And because I didn't want to be embarrassed, I would act out, or I would run out of the classroom and I would cause a scene. But it really stemmed from me having issues with literacy. So for me, a lot of times I just remember how people made me feel. I remember how some teachers didn't help me with the situation. They talked down to me. They would talk to me harsh. And in those moments, I'm already trying to flight or fight, leave the situation. They made me feel that I could go back and try again, or they punished me. And so really those things kind of trickled through middle school, and the behaviors only kind of got worse. And got sent to alternative school because I wasn't able to kind of really hone in on my social skills. Almost was put towards special education, as we see so many times with our kids. If you're having behavior issues in the classroom, you're special education. And I think that's why we have an overrepresentation of special ed kids in special education. But that's a whole other topic for another day. And so then, almost got alternative school, almost special ed. And then in high school, I had a 9th grade teacher named Ms. Sankson, who really, she had a handful class. And I talk about that in my presentation. She was a Caucasian, middle-class woman, and she had 25 Black boys who were problem issues, and I kind of make the joke that the school put us all together in one spot so the rest of the school could have a chance to learn and to be successful. And I laugh about it now, but how many schools around the country internationally do we see like that, where we put all the kids together to make sure that we can kind of consolidate those behaviors? But in reality, those behaviors only get worse, because we don't have anyone to model after who's doing better. We don't have honor students in the classroom. We're just getting worse. And someone like me, who really wasn't that bad per se, compared to some of the kids, I was getting worse. So one of the things I will say lastly is my teacher was able to see past my problems and see my potential. She, at some point, I gave her a glimmer of my heart, and she said, "You know what? I can reach Basil. He's putting on these shows. He's putting on this kind of theatrical thing for me, but I know he can do better." So she really worked with me, whether it was ISS or suspension. When I came back in the classroom, she would say stuff to me like, "Basil, no matter how dirty your past is, your future is always spotless, and I want to be able to help you to get past this so you can have a better life. What you're doing right now is only going to make sure that you cannot be successful." And so because of that work, again, I finally got myself together and I went to college for business administration. They got nothing to do with children. I went to Boys and Girls Club as a member starting at the age of 9. I left the Boys and Girls Club as the director of the whole program. So the Boys and Girls Club was really a monumental thing in my life as well, to help me be successful. But that really gave me a platform of how do I reach the other Basils in the world? How do I help those kids who are struggling academically and behaviorally? How do I help them be successful? And I can speak from a place of experience because it was me. So when I talk to these kids, I'm genuine, I'm real. I know what it's like to feel that you're unwanted. I know what it's like to feel like you're just a nuisance of society. So when I answer your question, Umar, really it's about making sure those kids know that, listen, I see you. I see the real you. And we're going to pull the real you out. And all those other things you're masking is for a show, but you really are hurting inside. You really want to be reached. You really want to be successful. So I'm going to give you the tools to do that. And so, I will say this lastly, I'm training the teachers as well, because some of them don't have the tools. And I'm going to say, whether it's the novice or the veteran teacher, I could have a teacher that's in their first year, they need a different level of support. And then I could have a teacher who's in their 15th year who will need different type of supports, but they still need supports to reach the student, because they think they have learned all they can learn. And they think that, I've seen it all. I've seen different administrations. You're going to be like the rest of them. But I have to first build a relationship with my teachers as well and let them know that I care about them. I better support them. And this is how we're going to reach our students.
Wonderful.
That's amazing.
That is amazing, and that is so relatable in Pakistan as well. Obviously this show is international, and we do connect with many people. And I am a practicing teacher as well, and I do teach grade 11 and 12. And this is the biggest problem here as well, that students are tagged due to their grades, and in some cases, I might see the situation that even those who are reachable are just pushed away due to their grades and judgments and all those things. I think
Absolutely.
you would agree with that. But
Yes.
my next question is, yeah, like this is my almost 20th year in teaching, and I always try to access those students who are unreachable, who are struggling, and who are trying their level best to come up. But what would you say as a specialist? What would you say is the hardest part of working with students who seem unreachable?
So the hardest part for me is the pushback that they're going to give you, right? Because they're going to push you, they're going to try you. That's some of their coping mechanisms to make sure that you're real. Because everyone else in my life has walked away. Everyone else in my life has given up on me, including family. Let me say that, because sometimes I bring in family to help support me, and I might have a grandma that comes in and says, he ain't never going to be anything. You wasting your time. Daddy's locked up, and the grandparents have been dealing with it for so long that they're tired. Right. So I almost have to inspire the family again to say, listen, we're going to partner together with you as a school, and we're going to get this together. So I have to get the family on the right page as well, because if I'm giving you all this positivity at school, and yes, you're there for eight hours, but then you go home for those 4 to 5 hours and you're hearing the negativity, with those kids, it's kind of a yo-yo effect. I'm getting the positivity, Mr. Moran believes in me, my teacher believes in me, but then I go home and hear this negativity. And so I have to put on a face and a show at home. But then I have to come to school again, and do I believe in what Mr. Moran's saying me? Do I believe in what Mr. Umar is saying me? Do I believe what Ms. Tammy's telling me? Because I'm hearing differently at home. And so I will say, hurt people, right? So a lot of times for my teachers, when they've been hurt, they want to stop trying. And so I have to give them tools and say, listen, this kid really wants your help. We got to keep pushing through. Anything that's good for us, you have to work hard to get that. Just like, let me give you an analogy, losing weight. You go to a Planet Fitness or a gym, you're not going to lose weight in the first 2 weeks. And if you do, that's awesome, right? But you're not going to see results. And so what happens is, a lot of people I see in Planet Fitness, they go there for the first, January comes, New Year's resolution, everybody and their grandma's in the gym, right?
Yeah.
I can't find an elliptical. If I don't go at a certain time, I'm not even going to go. But then what I see is, after about the 1st of February, it's about halfway full.
Yeah.
People who are not really about it, they've already dropped off. And then the next time I go, about the beginning of March, I have my elliptical back, the same one I use every day, because everyone who was not really about losing that weight, their why wasn't strong enough, right? So let me relate that back to teachers. I tell them, your why has to be strong. Why are you trying to help this kid? You helping this kid, what's that going to do for you? Is that going to help you stay in education? Is that going to help you feel like you matter as a teacher? Because also, I will say this, as a teacher, when you're not able to reach a student, your own self-esteem is hurt. Well, am I not good enough as a teacher? What am I doing? And do I need supports? And so I have to, tell my teachers, I'm here to support you too, because they're going to be rough days. But a lot of times what I do personally is I build a relationship with that student myself. And a lot of times, as an advocate for that kid, let me give you an example. If, Umar, if you're the teacher and Tammy is a student, I will build a relationship with her. And I will get her to understand that I'm here for you. And then I will help you all build a relationship. Right. So I'll maybe bring you both to my office and say, Tam, Mr. Umar he's really a good person. He's really trying to help you. Same way that, I make you feel, and I make you feel like you matter in the school. He's doing the same thing for you, but he's doing it in his classroom. And slowly that relationship starts to develop. But I will say, just like the beginnings of it are very hard. And if my teachers aren't really in it for the long haul, they will push back and say, I don't want to do that. And so that's the biggest part, is how do we get past that first initial pushback? And then after that, how do we get the kids the support to be successful? But then again, there will be time kids will relapse, because again, if you're like, I'm gonna go with you, Umar, if you're a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, junior, you've been doing this now for 16, 17 years. So now if you're trying it for the first time, in the month of April, you're gonna kind of relapse back again in May, because you've been used to it for so many years. So we're giving you new tools as well. So anybody who's getting new tools, we have to expect they're going to make mistakes. But the moments of hope are what keep us going, if that makes sense. So I would say a lot of time the pushback, the negatives that's still happening are the hardest parts to get past. But once we have kids who really excel, it happens. Let me give you one last story. I had a student that was in a class that slept every day, but I knew he was intelligent. So his teacher came to me every day. I was not every day, but once a week, at least, with the referral, not doing work, not participating in class, they're going to fail. But she also wanted to try to help to reach him, but he wasn't helping the situation. So I would say finals came and he had a solid F. And she's like, I know he could pass English 9. I know he can do it. He's just not showing me what he has. And as to educators, I'm not going to give you a grade. And that's right. We have to hold him accountable. So I said, let's do this. Let's give him, because you're teaching the whole semester for that final assessment, right? So I said, let's give him the final assessment and let's see how he does. I said, I'm going to promise you he's going to pass your assessment. And if he passes your assessment, you as a teacher, I'll give you the autonomy. You can pass him in the class. So she's like, oh, I don't think it's going to really. I said, let's just give him an opportunity. It's all we can do. So we gave him an opportunity to take the test. This young man, he knew about the opportunity, knew that kind of persuaded his teacher to give him that opportunity. He took this final exam and got a 92. He flew down to my office and said, Mr. Marin, I passed the test. I know how to do this. I said, I know you can. I believe in you. I believe in you the whole semester. But I need you to be up every day and show your teachers this, because that's not fair to them either. And she didn't have to give you this test. And so it wasn't 2 minutes later, the teacher came down the hallway. I mean, ecstatic, tears rolling down her face. He did it. I knew he can do it. I said, I know. And so now then that really helped her with the relationship with him. And she understood what I was doing. She said, wow, this is how Mr. Marin does this. So what happened was he passed the class. And the second semester, what she did was she wrote him a personal card. And she said, young man, I believe in you. And I want you to be successful, but you have to be up in classes. Even though I'm not your teacher anymore, I'm going to be checking up on you. I want to make sure that you're being successful. I'm going to be one of your advocates in the building. And I will tell you all, he didn't care about his grades the first semester. We had a conversation. It would always be, I don't know what my grades are. The second semester, if he got anything less than a C, he came into my office and he was frustrated. Mr. Marin, you talked to my teacher because I have a C and I can't fail. The mindset now was different. Yeah. The mindset was different. So I would say that once you get the buy-in, once you help kids to believe in themselves, I'm seeing that a lot in the chat boxes right now. That idea of belief is huge. Once you can believe it, you can achieve it. But it has to start with the heart, and you have to believe it.
Yeah. And so much of
before telling you start.
Yeah.
You carry on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say so much of what you've said, Basil, just resonates. And that's, I think, our initial conversation when we met last year at Empower in Boston. That was a huge connection for us because I worked with kids in New York City that were a bunch of little U's, and like a lot of kids who had so much potential, but they had so much going on at home. And they just it's not their fault. They just need the support at school. And so a lot of what you've been talking about kind of lends itself into my next point is like having a whole child approach is so important. And so through your stories, you mentioned like, how do you make the kids feel healthy? Well, sometimes you have to let them sleep, How do you challenge them? Well, you give them the opportunity. And so, it just fits in perfectly with the tenets of the whole child that ASC has out for any educator to use. And you talked a lot about the hurdles that you have with students and staff, but I want to know then, how do you stay positive in all of the stuff, because you do get the negativity, you get the bad days, we all have them. And you're like kind of a master at being positive and giving people opportunity and looking for the bright side. But how do you keep doing that?
Right. So
but before one second, Basil, before you start answering this part, I'm really overwhelmed by these wonderful words that we have spoken just before a couple of minutes ago. And I think these hard situations don't disappoint you, because that is why we are all here. Right. We all educationists who are working for their students, for their betterment. Like I have gone through a quotation a few days ago, I think day before yesterday, and is that I am here for the children who cannot speak about themselves, who cannot defend themselves. Yes. So I will follow you, I will be your voice, and I will try my level best at every point, whether in my classroom, at the managerial position, at the leadership roles, at the policy making, everywhere. I think there is a lot of hope there.
Absolutely.
We know, and whatever you told us, we do face that thing in Pakistan as well. The students are there always. So go ahead with your next question. Thank you for doing the great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for that encouragement, because I will tell you, this work, it can be lonely. It can be lonely. And I'm telling you, sometimes the only person you see along the journey is your shadow. because it's hard work. And I say that in my session. I say, if you're looking for a 5-step easy plan, this is the wrong session, because it's hard work. And I'm gonna go back to it. Your why has to be strong enough to push you through. Right. And again, I think part of my fuel for what I'm doing is because I was that kid. I knew how that felt. I knew how that felt. And so when I tell my teachers, when I'm in the hallway counseling, sometimes my teachers say I'm in the wrong role because I counsel a whole lot. I mean, I'm counseling.
That's part of it, though.
Right. I'm in the lunchroom putting out trash. And once I'm doing trash, how's your day going? How are those grades? Get your grades up. I'm counseling all the time. And so what's crazy, too, about it was when I was in school, I used to get in trouble a lot for talking. And now I'm getting paid to talk. So it was crazy, right? Sometimes one of the things I really admire, someone told me before, is your gifts will make way for you, right? So I think, too, that a lot of what I'm doing is coming from a place of sincerity. It's coming from a place where I want to see the other Basils in the world be successful. And I know that once you give these kids a glimmer of hope, and a lot of times for my own kids, I share my own story, because all they do is they see me in a suit, they see me looking clean, and they think that my life was handed to me. And once I really break down my own story, I've had kids leaving my classroom crying, or my office crying, like, wow, you struggle too? You had those issues? And I said, yes. Like, what I'm giving you right now is tools that I had to use myself. It's tools I'm still using today. So understand that it's tools that are going to evolve. Right? You might have a small screwdriver right now, but it's only going to be a bigger screwdriver later. But you're going to have these tools in life. And so a lot of times, I will say this to you all, I understand I have to be a positive Black male in society, because a lot of these kids do not have that at home. They do not have it in the community. So I have to be that. For some kids, I'm an older brother. For some kids, I'm an older uncle. For some kids, I'm an older dad. I will tell you both, I have about 30 to 40 kids in my school, young men, I call them my sons. And I give them that title of endearment because they don't have that. And they will come to my office and say, Dad, this is what's going on. And I'll speak to something you said earlier, Tammy, the whole child approach. Sometimes these kids are hungry.
Yep.
Let me be real. They come into my classroom, I keep saying my classroom, but it is all the schools my classroom. But they come into my office and they start going off. And I'm like, listen, Christian, are you hungry? What's going on? And he's like, you know what? Yeah, I didn't have breakfast this morning. I always keep Nutri-Grain bars in my office. I keep crackers. I keep deodorant, because sometimes they're showing off because they're a little stinky, so they want to get out. I'm like, what do you need? And they're like, do you have a deodorant? I'm like, I got you. Here we go. And now they're fine. Like, those are some whole child approach. And I don't know if you both have listened to Dr. Rita Pierce, her TED Talk. If you have not, it's a life changer. And I show this video to my teachers, because so much of what she says is true, right? If kids are having these issues, they're not going to be successful in class. And so me meeting their needs, me giving them that snack, me giving them that, you know what, you made a good grade, here's a candy bar. I'm gonna keep motivating you, because that's the things they're not getting at home sometimes, right? And so for me, things I do, I listen to TED Talks. I listen to phenomenal podcasts like the one I'm on now. I read books to keep me motivated. I will say I don't get to read as much books on my own that are pleasurable, because I'm in a doctoral program. So a lot of times I'm reading these 35, 40-page articles. So by the time I get to read on my own, I'm too tired. But I will also say this. I think I listened to a podcast one time. I'm sorry I can't quote it, but you as an individual, you are an average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I always surround myself with people who are positive, like people like you both. If you're not, and sometimes it's just me being around your energy that gives me what I need and lets me know this work is important and I need to continue to do it. Or people saying, Basil, I go to a conference, people are coming to me at the end of my session crying, thank you so much for sharing what you did, because at the end of the day, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so you have to be filled and rejuvenated to do this work. And so those are some things that I do, but also I will say the glimmers of hope when you get to see that kid walk across the stage, or when you get to see this kid that had all F's first semester and now we're looking at A's and B's and a C. Those are the moments, you all, that I'm like, you know what, this is I'm doing what I need to do. Yeah. And those are the moments where I'm an assistant principal. If my principal comes to me at the end of the day and says, Basil, you're an asset to my building. Thank you for being here. Our teachers tell me, Mr. Marin, that I'm so glad you're here, because the work that you're doing, you made me a better teacher. I'm seeing the kids doing better. That's what keeps me going. That's what lets me know that I'm here for this reason. And my story is one that it matters. And I have to keep sharing it because it's coming from a place of realness.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
That's
That's
amazing.
wonderful, and that is so inspiring. And Basil, let's move to the next question.
Okay.
I'm worried about those recent incidents that we have seen in Pakistan as well.
Okay.
Higher education, due to economic situation in many part of the world is changing at a very different pace,
Right.
and industrial era is almost over. The students who get admission to the higher education, they normally have a mindset that they will get a good job just after their completion of the undergrad. Now, my question is that the students who are in higher education, in the universities, in the colleges, they are normally considered as grown up, mature students.
Mm.
And teachers don't find it, they don't consider it to reach them or to reach such student who might be considered as unreachable, who
Right.
is different problems. What do you think? And obviously, that is leading to a tendency of suicide in Pakistan as well. And
Mm.
we have recently gone through such horrible incidents. So, what do you think? How higher education can reach those students who are actually going through the traumas and who are going through such difficult situation during their academic life, so they can face the challenges once they are out of their education life?
Mhm. So let me make sure I'm understanding you. So you're talking about these students they're now in college and they're suffering. They themselves are in college and they're suffering with some of the things of, like you said, suicide or the traumas they've had from high school, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
in
So
the university as well.
university level. Okay. So I think that the whole. So let me say this. We haven't really spoke about it, but a lot of what I do is surrounds itself around social emotional learning, right? And a lot of
Yeah,
restorative justice, and I combine them
yeah,
together. I will say this: social emotional learning has no age limit. A
yeah,
lot of times, we as educators we think about social emotional learning from K through 12, but I would say a
yeah,
lot of times when I'm talking to my teachers, I'm looking at some of my tools and how I'm going to deal with them in terms of their own social emotional disparities, because those things matter. If I can't heal some of your social emotional, deficiencies, you're not going to be able to give my kids what they need, right?
yeah,
So I would say what we really have to do is really train some of these professors, because I will be honest, and I think that's where the disconnect is. A lot of these professors are, I think their mindset is different, because a lot, like, let me give you an example. If I'm in a classroom and or if I'm in a professor's class and I have a question about an assignment, so many times professors will say, a simple, I might give you a whole page email and they'll respond with one sentence of, please refer to the syllabus. There's with that response, let me tell you, there's one word: connection. There's no connection, right?
Yep.
And I would say, I will be completely honest and transparent. I haven't had much experience with the higher level, situation, but I would say the disconnect between professor and student is rampant. And there are some professors who are doing great work and who are able to make the connection, and they want another students, and they're there for their students holistically. But I would say, for these kids who are in college, you really, and I'm saying I'm glad I'm in the K through 12 realms, because you got to reach them when they're earlier, so that they
Mhm.
have the tools that they need to be okay in the real world afterwards. Because I'll say that now you're in the real world when you're in college. And so you need
Right.
to be able to go to that bank that you already have of, wow, how did that ninth grade teacher make me feel? How did that senior teacher make me feel? Remember that moment when I graduated. You have to go back to those moments and pull yourself out of those ruts, because in college you're kind of by yourself. And I'm gonna go back to that analogy. The only person you might see is your shadow. So I would say another big part of it is having ties to your family, right? Making sure your family's supporting you. And then I would also say, for that college student, they need to be into a organization like ASCD, and you need to be around other people who are amazing and go to these conferences and know that those people will empower you to go back to your university and do the work that you're doing. So I would say they need to really, like I said, but that makes me think hard, Omar, about, I need to really make sure my kids are prepared from their senior year to step into the real world, because those supports are not there like they are when you're in high school. The training wheels are off.
Mhm.
So I would say to anyone who's a sophomore right now, a junior, tie yourself to the organization like ASCD. Go to these conferences. They have a student discount rate to help you go. They have opportunities to volunteer where, yeah, you'll be working, but they'll give you opportunities to go to the sessions. And I will go back to something I said earlier. You are a sum of the 5 people you put yourself around. So when you go to these conferences, if you have the opportunity to sit down with someone like Tammy or Amar, your life will change, because you're going to leave that 5-10 minute conversation like, wow, I can do this. I can be inspired. And when I go to the conferences, I feel the same way. I'm grown. I'm presenting. I'm helping people with their issues. But me having those 5 minutes to sit down with people like you all really inspires me as well to continue the work that I'm doing. So I think that, and let me say this too, because I haven't talked about it yet. As an educator, you also, what's hard for me to learn, you also cannot have the savior mentality either, because you're not going to be able to reach 100% of your kids. And I had to really grapple with that. And those are the hardest moments for me, when I have to send a kid to alternative school. And I know I've done all I can, but I can sleep at night knowing I've done all I can do. Right. And I've had the conversation numerous times. If we continue this, you're going to go to alternative school. You're going to be put into juvie. You're going to get locked up. I know I've said all I can say. But I will say it like this too. I look at it as, and what keeps me going is, I look at it as planting a seed. Some seeds, you will see it grow and will sprout up right in front of you, and you can continue to nurture it. Some seeds are only going to be the dirt in the seed. But the way I also look at it as is, if Tammy had that student 5 years ago and she was planting that seed, I might be the one 4 or 5 years later that sees the buds and say, oh, it's something, there's some hope there. I can work with it, right? So I just look at it as, I'm planting the seed, and somewhere down the road, 4 or 5 years later, somebody else will see the work and say, it's something there. And so that doesn't discourage me, because I look at it as, everyone has an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
You think about an acorn seed. That little acorn seed produces a mighty oak tree.
Oh yeah.
Everything that the oak tree is comes in that small acorn, which is the size of a nickel.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yes,
that's an amazing analogy. Yeah.
It's wonderful. So, Basil, many people want to reach to their teacher, to their students, and obviously they try their level best to reach them and help them out. So tell me, and tell the viewers, what are you reading now, and do you have some books you would like to recommend on this topic?
Absolutely. So I will share with you 4 books. The first one I'm reading is Your School Better Because You Lead It? And it's by Principal Kafele. He's a phenomenal speaker. And essentially, I would say, even if you're a teacher, you need to read this book, because at the end of the day, you're leading your 30 or 40 kids at that time in that classroom, right? And what you're doing is you're being a change agent in your school. You're being a culture changer. So I would say that's a great book to read. If you're thinking about going into administration, that's a place to start. He also has a lot of other phenomenal books and podcasts as well. So that's a great place to start. Another book I would say is Crucial Conversations. You need to be able to and I say it's important because it's talking with not only your students, but teachers. Also, I would say parents. A lot of times they're coming in flying off the handles, cursing at me when they're coming in because of a suspension or whatnot. And so you have to be able to de-escalate them appropriately. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes I have to sit there and just kind of smile and say, ma'am, you're not going to curse at me. This is where we're at. This is what's going to happen. And if it continues, I will call my resource officer and you will be escorted off premise. And sometimes I will give them their little moment. And let me say another thing. Sometimes that parent just wants to be heard. So I will let them talk. I'll let them vent it out. And then I say, what I hear you saying is this. And once they're heard, they're immediately, okay. They heard me. They care about my baby. I'm okay. So that is a huge book. And I would say, even if you're not in education, but you're thinking about it, or if you're in business world, you need to read this book, because you're having those conversations every day. And then I would say my next one is Culturized by Jimmy Cassis. It's a great book because, again, talks about building culture in a school and helping your teachers, students, parents. How do you build that school to be successful? How do you help your school to get to where they need to go? And how do you even start with those relationships? How do you build relationships with students, teachers, but also with your colleagues? Because your colleagues, again, are your lifeline. And like I said before, the beginning started, this is March Madness time. So everybody's emotions are kind of wild. Everybody's tolerance for things are very low. So sometimes teachers get snappy with each other in the hallway. Hey, we're not going to do this because y'all are modeling for my students. So if y'all need to have a conversation, go to teachers' lounge and have a conversation. But we're not going to do that, right? So sometimes I'm being a referee in the hallway with my teachers, not even my kids. And then my last one, I would say, would be Marching Off the Map with Thelma Moore. And I got this book, again, from Dr. Laura McCall, who is the executive director for Virginia ASCD. I just did some work with her. So this is a newer book I'm going to be getting into. But I would say that's a starting place for an educator of some book. I didn't bring this one downstairs, but I'm going to have to mention it. It's Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Yeah.
You have to read that book because, again, like I said, if your why is not strong enough for this work, you're going to end up fizzling out like the person who's going to Planet Fitness. After a couple of months, you're going to be like, oh, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So
Too hard.
your why has to be strong. But like I said, to be in this field for 30 some years, I will say this too. Some people, and this is why I've done some research, why teachers leave the field in the first 3 to 5 years and number one reasons is because of support. They do not feel supported. They feel like their colleagues aren't supporting them. They say that their administrators are not supporting them. So I am in charge of our mentorship program for teachers this year, and I'm very intentional. And some teachers, let me be honest, have already been teachers, but I would say that they are new to my building. So I still provide them the same support, but I make sure they have what they need. I do weekly check-ins. We have a monthly meeting. I send out emails. I provide them with the actual mentor because they need to be able to have a colleague they can be real with. They're not going to tell me everything. I'm the supervisor, so they're not going to be, this is what I'm really struggling with because they also feel like that's tied to their evaluation. So they're not going to tell me everything, but I give them a colleague they can talk to. But I'm very intentional about what I do because they need that support. And I'm going to say it again. Social emotional learning does not have an age limit. Our teachers need that stuff as well. Our teachers need that stuff as well. So I asked some personal questions like, how's your son or daughter doing? How's, your husband had a surgery? How is he okay? And they want to know that I care about them, not just about, are you going to pass your SOLs? Are you going to have 85% or higher? I care about you as a person.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. So before we move on, Sammy, and you conclude today's show, and I really don't want to end this show today. It's so
there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, and it brings so much energy, so much positive energy to us. We the host as well, and the people who are listening to us, and they are really happy. And I'm seeing the comments of the people who really appreciate your work and your story. Oh, wow. And I would like to add one thing. I think that we do try our level best as educationists when we write, when we speak, and we advocate, and we do all this advocacy. But I think the parents should be included and should be an important part of this reaching out those students who are not reachable.
Right.
But anyway, so Tammy, over to you.
Thank you. Basil, thank you so much for all of the heart you put into everything you do. I wish I had read Crucial Conversations when I had been working with some of my really tough parents that I had to have the heart-to-heart wits and make sure they knew that I loved their baby and all of those things. That's a really good book to read. And we'll get those titles on our YouTube page and our Facebook page for people in case they're interested in taking a look at those. But I just want to wrap up with a quote, which I think is perfect for all the work that you do. In particular, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And that just perfectly suits this conversation that we've had today. So I want to thank you so much for spending your time. And as we said, we could keep talking and talking about it. But we'll take a look at the comments and see what people have had to say. And then, if they have questions, we'll send them to you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to come here today. Thank you for your audience, your listeners, because again, I'm seeing the comments that even the comments of I'm inspirational, those things are keeping me fueled. I'm going to be on fire to go back to my school tomorrow on Monday. And thank you for the work that you all are doing because it's very important. And you're bringing real life issues that are going on within our schools, within our country, within the global that we're facing. And I would say anyone who's listening, please, like I said, I know they're going to give you more information, but please follow me on Twitter at Basil, BASIL _Marin, MARIN. I also have a website, which is www.basilmarin.com. And I would love to be in contact with you all. Again, I have had different podcasts I've been a part of. And again, I do speak as well. So anything I can do to help you all, keep you all encouraged, please let me know. But you all are doing the great work. And thank you for what you're doing.
So Basil, before we move, we finish the show, I would like to tell my viewers that we have a YouTube channel as well. You can subscribe to the channel and you can watch the previous videos and shows as well. And Basil, thank you very much for doing the wonderful work. And I really, I get a lot of energy and inspiration from you.
Thank you so much. You both. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great Sunday. Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.